After 14 fantastic episodes, the emotional farewell of Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May mark the end of the Grand Tour Season 3 and of the show as we know it. While both Season 1 and Season 2 gained mostly positive reviews, they were by no means perfect. However, with Season 3, it seems the former Top Gear trio have firmly got into their stride and are back at their very best. But which episode is best? Ranking every episode, Grand Tour and Special, I'm Ash Robertson from Man Thoughts with our Grand Tour Season 3 review. Number 13, Episode 4, Pick-Up, Put-Downs. Whilst it does seem harsh to put any episode in the bottom position, the honour does unfortunately fall to Episode 4. In this episode, the trio are trying out 3 European pickup trucks, test them as if they were in the developing world, where pickup trucks are the vehicle of choice. Whilst this film did have its funny moments, notably Clarkson being knocked on his backside and Hammond's to scale dictator statue, it really was okay rather than great. If you were to ask viewers to pick their standout moments from the season, this one would be one of the forgotten ones. However, this episode also saw Clarkson do what he does best, by thrashing the crazy Jaguar XE Project 8 around the Ebola drone. Number 12, Episode 2 and 3, The Colombia Special. One of the most divisive parts of the entire Grand Tour has been its specials. While some have raved at their cross-country epics, some have been left disappointed. Although Colombia was the first special in Season 3, it was originally slated for Season 2, but it wasn't quite finished in time. You'd therefore hope with extra time that this would be a cracker, but I would argue it's not one of their best. In this 2-part special, the guys travel across Colombia taking wildlife pictures for a new Amazon screensaver. As with many of their bigger specials, it takes an absolute age to get going, and really could have been condensed into an extended episode. Whilst I appreciate the joke, the first 10 minutes of the film are dedicated to retrieving Hammond's car, which was dropped into the sea in a polythene bag. Across both parts there seemed to be a general problem with pacing, allowing moments that were kind of funny to drag out. There was even the routine stunt where the guys travel round an empty field with no direction just to get stuck. That's not to say there wasn't entertaining or funny moments, whether it was Jeremy and James and their heated fight, the famous bridge crossing, or Jeremy's reaction to the donkey lovers. With the preamble out of the way, part 2 was entertaining too, when the guys made their modifications and even spotted a bear doing the obvious in the woods. However, it wasn't quite enough to salvage the special, which after watching left me concerned for how Season 4 could turn out. Number 11, Episode 10, The Youth Vote. I do feel sorry for Episode 10 sitting this low in our charts, as it's not a bad episode. It's just a victim of being in such a fantastic and competitive season. The episode's main film sees the guys try out 3 hot hatchbacks, as they attempt to see which one appeals the most to millennials. Whilst there were some strange moments, namely May taking historian Mary Beard for a curry, it had its fair share of funny and entertaining moments too, such as Jeremy becoming a Labour supporter and May's excessive juicing. Probably the best part of the challenge was where they attempt to go viral. While Hammond attempts crazy stunts, Jeremy becomes David Soufflé, the pastry-eating Belgian traffic warden. However, the best by far is James May unboxing his Yaris. I remember watching this before the season started, and I thought it was brilliant. Little did I know I was part of a challenge. Along with this hot hatch film was the test track segment, with the Lamborghini Countach and the Ferrari Testarossa, which was okay, as it covered most of the same ground as similar films on these supercars. Number 10, Episode 12, Legends and Luggage. If you think of Season 3 as an album, Episode 12 might not be the single, but it's certainly a great album filler. In this episode, the Grand Tour trio expertly balanced the silliness of testing out new airport luggage transportation with 2 more serious yet fantastic films. The first is Jeremy's review of 2 Reborn Lanciers, a film which you could tell Jeremy thoroughly looked forward to and enjoyed making. The second falls into the bracket of what I call heritage films, where the trio look back at particular rivalry, manufacturer or model from years gone by. In this one, James celebrates the 50th anniversary of the iconic Porsche 917 Le Mans car. To do so, he hosts a special race, pitting this old legend and its original driver Dickie Atwood against a modern Porsche 911 GT2 RS. It's a wonderful film which expertly shows the brilliance of the 917 to a whole new generation. Number 9, Episode 9, ASTON, Astronauts and Angelina's Children. Much like episode 12, the same could be said for episode 9. The combination of Richard's tests of the new Aston V8 Vantage, James's brilliant astronauts film, looking at the cars driven by Apollo astronauts, and Jeremy's classic over-the-top review of the Citroën C3 Aircross makes for a quality episode. Despite James driving Neil Armstrong's very own Corvette Stingray, I would have to say Jeremy's review is the standout moment from the episode. It definitely harks back to the tests of the Ford Fiesta and even the Renault Twingo by having a tug-of-war with a ship, replacing an elephant to invade Italy, and even becoming a pursuit car for the French police, chasing after a Di Tommaso Pantera. We can't forget, of course, its practicality as a great way to transport Angelina Jolie's many, many children. Number 8, Episode 1, Motown Funk. The Season 3 opener saw a break from tradition, as instead of a big bombastic three-way challenge, as in both 1 and 2, the Grand Tour instead opted for a more understated yet brilliant film, set in Detroit. Whilst I may be biased as I saw this episode at the Grand Tour Season 3 premiere in London, I thought it was a great way to kick off the season. Not only was the premise strong as Clarkson, Hammond and May looked to put the muscle back in the Motor City with 3 snarling muscle cars, it was highly entertaining to watch. Whether it was the boys storming around the streets of downtown Detroit, competing in a sound test in the Michigan Theatre, or battling it out on their own racetrack through the old Cadillac factory. It was a real celebration of American muscle. Of course, we can't forget that Clarkson's test of the epic McLaren Senna, a worthy car to start the season. Number 7, Episode 7, Well-Aged Scotch. Episode 7 sees the guys take on another favourite Top Gear and Grand Tour staple, buying classic cars. This time it's with the aim of finding future classics missed by collectors which they believe will one day cost a pretty penny. When I saw the guys were filming on the North Coast 500 in 3 Italian classics, I was quite excited. After watching the episode, I certainly wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't quite what I imagined. It's hard to put my finger on why that is, whether it's the long-winded gag surrounding Jeremy's birthday, which took over most of the last 10 minutes of the show, or the fact that a large part of the 500 was missed out. Nonetheless, there were funny moments with the failed drifting attempts, Jeremy's sad bicycle ride, or his juvenile revenge with Hammond's roof. And that's not forgetting the M5 vs Alpina film, which was once again Jeremy showing off what he does best. Number 6, Episode 11, Sea to Unsalty Sea. In Season 3 we were certainly spoiled when it came to specials. One of them was Episode 11, which saw the guys go on a grand tour from the shores of the Black Sea in Georgia to the Caspian Sea in Azerbaijan, all in 3 quintessential Grand Tourers. Once again it's a new location for the Grand Tour trio, and once again it's another strong episode. The reason it sits at the midpoint in our list is firstly the tough competition from the other episodes, and secondly because it felt a little too long. There have been times watching this episode where I find myself checking my phone, ultimately zoning out. We could cut out the full bladder lap shenanigans, the Stalin buff on the bonnet, which frankly didn't have much of a payoff, and still have a funny and entertaining episode. However, I did enjoy the classic gift buying gag, James's real world test, and the back to the studio gag, which I thought was a clever way to end the show. Number 5, Episode 5, An ITCHYURUS. It will come as no surprise to anyone who watched this episode to find it so high on our list. No, it's not because of Jeremy driving around a phallic racetrack, but Richard's masterpiece of a film looking back on the great Jim Clark. Whilst I did thoroughly enjoy Jeremy's road test of the new Lamborghini Urus and the subsequent race against Abby in the 911, along with a test of the new Alpine by James, they do somewhat get overshadowed by the great Jim Clark F1 film. Whilst the pressure was on Hamster to deliver after James's fantastic Le Mans film from Season 1 and Jeremy's Audi vs Lancia film from Season 2, Richard definitely knocked it out the park. We even tested this with a social media poll, and Richard was the clear winner. As a big F1 fan, it was great to see one of the sport's greatest racers recognised in such a way, and to see people who may not know the Scot wowed by his talent and bravery. It's another great example of the real talent of the Grand Tour trio, to not just be silly but to create wonderful films which keep legendary cars, battles and racers well and truly alive. Number 4, Episode 6, Chinese Food for Thought. There's 3 words that spark joy in all Grand Tour fans, and that's Cheap Car Challenge. In essence, that's what we got with Episode 6, except it was in China, a relatively unexplored country by the trio. They set out to prove that instead of paying a fortune for China's knockoff Rolls-Royce, the honky L5, people in China could go to Europe and buy a quality saloon for a fraction of the price. What follows, of course, is not your usual consumer buying advice, but a brilliant, over-the-top road trip across China's vast road network. This included invading flame-throwing drones, heavy modification, including James's car becoming the first car sauna, and a race up the 24 curves of China, a windy and dangerous military access route. Whilst it was a China-themed episode, the action did return to the Ebola drone, as Richard tested out the Neo EP9, the new electric supercar from, you guessed it, China. Number 3, Episode 8, International Buffoons Vacation. When I saw the teaser for this episode in the trailer, I knew it would be one not to miss. Episode 8 saw the chaps go on an RV holiday across Nevada. Although Mr. Woolman's plan was for them to share, it quickly became clear that would not happen. So the guys went about buying and modifying their own recreational vehicles. After watching this great episode, my hope is that this format is used when the guys switch to a series of specials in Season 4. Not only was it highly entertaining, it still contained all the hallmarks of a great Grand Tour episode. Alongside their road trip, the guys did some classic modifications. They competed in dune buggy racing and even tested out some track-focused cars, proving they don't need a studio to offer all the best bits of the Grand Tour. If that wasn't enough, there was the usual silliness, whether it was putting anal in front of the caravan names, stealing Richard's possessions, or competing in a demolition derby. If they do follow this theme in Season 4, I'll certainly be tuning in. Number 2, Episode 13, Survival of the Fattest, the Mongolia Special. While I might not have been a big fan of the Colombia Special, I certainly enjoyed their trip across Mongolia, and judging by the feedback across social media and IMDb, I certainly wasn't the only one. What made the Mongolia Special so special was quite a unique format. Instead of the guys picking a car each, they actually had to share a car, but before all that, they needed to build it. And when I say they, I mean Hammond and May. This cool idea meant that for really the first time on one of these trips, the guys are all in the same car, working together to take on the steep hills, the tough terrain and the terrible conditions. Despite being based in such an expansive emptiness, the special doesn't feel repetitive or dragged out. Instead, the change in terrain served almost as chapters for this epic journey, and the banter and the conversations between the presenters just felt so authentic and unscripted. Many have called this their best special across both the Grand Tour and Top Gear, and it would be hard to argue with that. And number 1, Episode 14, Funeral for a Ford. There's many reasons why the Season 3 finale tops our list. Of course, part of this is because of its significance, marking the end of the Grand Tour as we know it, and the end of Clarkson, Hammond and May using the trusted studio format. For Season 4 that all changes. However, the main reason it heads up our list is the fantastic Ford film. Jeremy Clarkson wasn't lying when he said it was the best thing they have ever made. It's so fitting that in the last episode, one British motoring icon pays tribute to another. The episode features all the reasons why the trio are the best at what they do. Whether it's the power laps in the Lotus Cortina and the Sierra, the history lesson looking at Ford in Britain, my dad also had a Cortina, or their incredible sense of humour poking fun of Hammond, the car badge class system, or the many cars they all dislike. As much as I enjoy the road trips, grand tours and cross-country specials, I really hope fantastic films like this remain a firm part of Season 4. So what's my verdict? Overall, I would argue that Season 3 has been the best season of the Grand Tour so far, with the guys finally getting into their rhythm. Without the distraction of injuries and the challenges of a tight production schedule, the team produced a series which maintained a consistently high level. It almost seems a shame that it will be their last series after 14 great episodes, which are proving they are still the best at what they do. However, we must be grateful that we will be having a Season 4, with Clarkson, Hammond and May promising even more globe-trotting world trips to far-off exotic locations. My hope for Season 4 is that these specials follow the style of the RV special and the Mongolia special, rather than their trip to Colombia, and that the real talent for telling a story and showcasing the history of motoring and motorsport is still given a platform. But that's our list. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and tell us down below what's your favourite episode from Season 3 and what you would like to see in Season 4. Until next time, I'm Ash Robertson and this is Man Thoughts.